Oh man, what up? What up? What up? What up with y'all? What's good with y'all? How y'all doing tonight? We a little late, you know what I mean? What y'all should know when Hawk say he gonna be there in 60 seconds, it really mean like 90 seconds. But how y'all doing? What's up? It's your boy Hawk. Welcome to Hawk Soups Live. Your weekly, man, it felt good to say weekly again. Your weekly NBA show every Wednesday, right here on the channel, 8 p.m. Eastern. We go over a lot of stuff. Right now, we're in the process of doing the top 10. So we're doing top 10 in each position, which is crazy because I just realized as I do the intro, I gotta finish building out this tier list. I downloaded the photos, but didn't actually put together the tier list. So let me go to Tier Maker real quick. But how y'all doing? Hopefully y'all doing good tonight. Hopefully the stream goes good tonight. Appreciate y'all for pulling up as always. If you're not watching live, if you're watching on TikTok, appreciate you on the TikTok. Come over to the YouTube and vice versa. Anyway, appreciate y'all for pulling up. Having a good time. Like I said, show is every Wednesday. We're currently in the process of going over our top 10 in each position. Last week we did point guards. Point guards was easy. Maybe I shouldn't say easy. Point guards was fun. Shooting guards, we'll get into why I won't say I struggled with it, but I will say I wanted to be more controversial than I was, but I had to be honest with myself. There were some things that I wanted to do that I think would have been a little more controversial if depending on how you look at it. But we didn't ultimately end up going with some of the controversy stuff. We played it a little safe. We played it a little safe with this list. I'm still not mad at it. Let's see what y'all talk about up in here. Unlimited, what's good with you, my guy? Thanks for pulling up to the stream. Unlimited, you know what's hilarious? Hold on, let me make sure I have. Hold on. Copy. Let me get the chat in here. Oh, no. Paste. Okay. No? Why chat not popping up? What did I do wrong here? Copy. So Unlimited, that's what's funny. I was just about to say when you said the bros back in town. I was watching. Oh, there we go. He definitely said unlimited range, and I'm like, yo, that's crazy. You're back. So shout out to you, Unlimited. Yeah, I just realized on mute. I don't think I was on mute the whole time though. I literally just hit it on mute. So what's good with y'all? Happy to see y'all back in the chat. I'm trying to figure out why I can't see chat pop up on the on stream itself. No? Let me try one thing. Trying to figure out why chat not popping up for me. Restore chat. No, let me pop out chat. Pop, get chat overlay. Copy. Yeah, that Collins take was you. I'm about to say that. I'm pretty sure that Collins take was you. That's what I'm saying. I was like, look at Unlimited in the through the wire drawing. That's what's up. Rage, what's good with you? Not no higher, nothing. I was getting there. How you doing, Rage? Oh God, that was me. I'm dead. Nah, Rage, ain't forget about you. How y'all doing? Appreciate y'all for pulling up as always. It's going to be a good show. Going to be a good time. Let me know if y'all can see the comments on y'all end. Like, have any comments been popping up on y'all end? I haven't seen it. Hey, for the rest of these tier lists, I need parts. Hey man, we're gonna have to collab this season, Sleazy. We definitely have to collab this season and do some content together. Black Majestic, what's good with you? Thanks for pulling up to the stream as well. Oh, you can see him? Well, can you? I know you can see him on the side, but are they popping up on the video? You know how like I click them and they slide up? Is that happening? All right, Range. No, I mean, all right, Unlimited, no problem. Thanks for pulling up, man. Good to talk to you. Yeah, go do your homework. I ain't mad at that. I remember those days, and I don't envy those days at all. Yeah, not on the video. You know what's crazy? This is the part of streaming that they don't talk about when they say, "Oh, you want to be a streamer? Like you want to stream?" No one tells you every time you go to stream, it's going to be a different technical difficulty every single time. You know what I mean? They don't prepare you for that. They don't prepare you for that. But it's all good. It's all good. 1 to 2, 3 to 4. I'm doing this last thing, and then we can go ahead and get started with the tier list. Other than that, how y'all been? How y'all been? We getting a I kind of have a lot I want to talk about, a lot that's on my mind. Some Team USA stuff, some Giannis stuff, some obviously the top 10 list. I want to talk about that new governor rule. Do y'all say governors? I'm still used to saying owners. The NBA is trying to get people to saying I do need some stream reporters from you, but it seems like you be having trouble. Listen, I'm always learning. I'll say that. When it comes to streaming, I am constantly learning how to stream better. I'm constantly learning how to do things more efficiently. I'm also just like rusty. I haven't, outside of last week's stream, I haven't done it in a, hey, your birthday just passed? That's what's up. Happy birthday. Not streaming for like a month will do that to you. We took almost all of August and most of July off. But now that the season's in back in full swing, I got some ideas I want to implement more. I want to bring the phone calls back. I just got to find a new way to do it that I think would work a little bit easier for myself. But I'm really excited for this basketball season, man. I'm really, really excited for this basketball season. I think this is good. This is a good place to start. Let's go ahead and get in these tier lists. So a couple of things. Let me lay the groundwork here. A couple of things that, if you're new around here, we do a tier list every season, ranking each position, top 10 guys in each position based on I'm going to say regular season with an asterisk. Typically, it's always about the regular season, unless the guy has a crazy standout performance in the playoffs. That playoff performance might weigh some of my ranking. You call it hypocritical, say it's not fair. It's my list. I'm sorry. The prime example of that is Jamal Murray last week. He ended up over a couple of other guys. He had a good regular season, don't get me wrong, but he stepped up so much and was so phenomenal in the playoffs. I had to give him a little nod, have him show him some love. And that's just an example. You're going to see something similar. You might see something similar in this list, but without further ado, let me put my notes up over here on this side. Make sure I got chat up here. Bro, off season been crazy dry, sleazy, crazy dry. Yeah, I don't know why this ain't working today. I'm gonna try one more time. Chat pop up. Hit okay. No, it just ain't popping up for some reason. Because the camera will hide. Yeah, I can still hide the camera. I can't get chat to pop up. I don't want no Jaylen Brown disrespect. I don't think you're gonna get no Jaylen Brown disrespect. Let's go get into this. I don't think you're gonna feel like Jaylen Brown got disrespected from this tier list. So we got 12 guys on the board. These was the 12 I think were worthy of the conversation. That means obviously I have 2 honorable mentions. Very similar to last week when we did with the point guards. When it comes to like 8 through 12, or maybe in this case more like 9 through 12, if you one of the guys that have 11 or 12 in the honorable mention spot, y'all might have them 8, 9, 10. I'm not tripping over that. And then shoot, even when we get to 1, 2, 3, even 4 to an extent, that top 4, I think you can make some real swaps and move some people around. I'll get into that in a little bit. Oddly enough, the guys I think are the most solidified in this list, and at least for me in terms of where I placed them, were like 5 through 7. Like they were there. They were right solidly there for me. But the lower half and upper half of this list, I think, was a little interchangeable for me. I'm mad. I'm really mad that this ain't popping up. I don't know why it's not doing that. Let me try one last thing. Just because I really do want chat to work. But chat. And let me name it copy, paste, okay. 1920 1080. Yeah, I just want to check chat gonna work today. I'm gonna have to look into that after stream. I can see y'all chat. Obviously, I just want to. I like, you know how I like to be able to pull it on the screen and stuff, so I can kind of really address who I'm talking to or what comment I'm reacting to. But hey, it is what it is. Last week we started a half hour late because my internet was down. This week the internet's working, but chat's not working, so it is what it is. Yo, Kev, what's good with you on the TikTok? How you doing, my boy? All right. So we'll save some of the honorable mentions. I'll go over the honorable mentions after I do number 9 and 10. That sound good. Let me relook at my list, make sure I got this stuff in the right order. It wasn't, like I said, the bottom half was pretty bad. Pretty negative. I think let me see. I look like I'm buffering on my end. Let me just make sure I'm good. All right, bet. I think Tyrese Maxey had a really good season. I think some of the things that he excelled in was shooting. He was a great shooter this season. He had 10 attempts. On 6 attempts a game, he shot 43% from 3. He was excellent in transition, good at attacking the basket. I think this particular piece, you're going to hear me say for a couple of different guys, and I think that's what makes the guys at the top so elite. I wish he had a better mid-range game. And that's going to apply to a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys can shoot the 3 and get to the basket, but I think what separates the separator from the top 3, top 2 guys is that mid-range game. Tyrese Maxey was, I don't want to say surprisingly a good defender, but he was a solid defender this season. He had to guard a lot of the point guard position with the Sixers this year, playing alongside James Harden. I think he had a really solid year, so I'm gonna have him at 10 for me. Bradley Beal on this listed off. I'm gonna keep it a beam with you. Well, I feel like I keep freezing over there. How's it looking, y'all, for y'all? We good? All right, I think we good. It just, my preview window keep looking like it's freezing. At 9 is actually where I have Bradley Beal. Black Majestic saying Anthony Edwards going to be number 1 by the time you do this list next year. We're going to get into Anthony Edwards. I don't know if I fully agree with it, but it's not impossible. Like, that's not an impossible take, Black Majestic. So at 9 is where I have Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal, I think, went a little under the radar in a lot of people's books. He only played 50 games this season. He didn't have the explosive season he had like 2 years ago where he scored 31, where he averaged 31. But he, in my mind, he still had a really, really good year. He's one of the best in this list at attacking the basket. I think his ability to drive and slash and get to the rim is low-key underrated. That's part of the reason why I think the Suns went after him. Still a solid shooter, a little undersized-ish for the 2-guard position in my mind, but I like his game. I like Bradley's game. He's not the best defender, but he's decent. He's solid. He can shoot the ball. He can score. I think he had a good season, 50 games this year. And now we'll get into my honorable mentions because, like I said, I got Bradley and Maxey here, but I'm not married to the idea of them being at the 9 and 10 spot. I'm gonna keep it a beam with y'all. My 2 honorable mentions before we go on to 7 and 8 were Desmond Bane and Tyler Hero. They didn't make my list for a couple of reasons. Desmond Bane, great shooter, held down the fort when Ja Morant wasn't there. Honestly, I don't really have anything negative to say about him. I just don't think he's better than 8 and up on this list. I don't really have anything negative to say about Desmond Bane. I think he had a phenomenal season. Really good shooter. Even with the short arms, I think he's a low-key underrated defender. Not necessarily like a passing lane guy or a deflections guy, but I think he just does a good job of staying in front of his man. May not always get up the best contest simply because of the height and the arms and the wingspan, but he does a good job of staying in front of his man and moving his feet. He's really solid defensively, and he did a really good job of holding down the fort for the Memphis Grizzlies when Ja Morant was out this season. Tyler Hero is an honorable mention because as great as he is offensively, as good as he is offensively, I think his offensive game is, call me blasphemous, very comparable to Tyrese Maxey's. And I think Tyrese Maxey is a slightly better defender. I don't think either of them are like phenomenal defenders, but I would go as far as to say that Tyler Hero is a bad defender. I think the Miami Heat just have enough good defenders around him. Eric Spoelstra is a really, really, really good head coach that knows how to hide him and move him around on defense and get him on the least impactful offensive player. And if there happens to be a moment where Tyler Hero does, get beat on a mismatch or is found himself in a mismatch or being attacked by the primary ball handler, you have one of the best rim protectors in Bam behind you. You got Jimmy Butler to probably either lefty or right. There's just other defenders, and the way the Miami Heat play defense really helps hide some of, I don't want to say his flaws, but it's hide some of his shortcomings on the defensive end of the ball. All right, it's saying excellent. It's spinning, but it say excellent. It's spinning, but it say excellent. So we're gonna keep it moving. All right, moving on to number 8. What do I have at number 8? Who do I have at number 8? At number 8 is where I have DeJounte Murray. So for me, if you watch it, if you was rocking with us all season or even last season, y'all knew going into the season I wasn't against it, but I was iffy on the whole DeJounte Murray trade. I wasn't sure how a backcourt of what was essentially 2 point guards at one point was going to mesh being together. Mainly because not so much that we haven't seen 2 point guards, you know, one of them assuming a role as a shooting guard or assume the role of 2 combo guards playing off of each other. We've seen that throughout the league, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. The reason I was hesitant on the DeJounte Murray situation was because he's not a great floor spacer. He's not a great catch and shoot guy. So I was worried of how well him and Trey would be able to play together, because when Trey has the ball, in theory at the time, I was like, it's not like DeJounte Murray's about to be spotting up, catch and shoot, ready for a pass. But I will say his shot did improve. That was one thing I was really happy to see from him. It's not amazing still. He was only like 34%, but that's league average. He got to be a league average shooter, which I think was really solid for the Hawks. But defensively, he was great. He did what they wanted him to do on the defensive end of the ball. He took on the main primary ball handler assignment night after night after night and did a really good job at it. The next step, I think, for DeJounte Murray when it comes to just being an Atlanta Hawk is, one, getting, I think, more comfortable, getting used to playing with Trae Young a little bit more. I would like to see, we're not necessarily talking about Trae, but I would like to see both of them move off the ball more. I think that's a thing that they both could benefit from, if in terms of their offensive game. If both of them, Trae and DeJounte, move off the ball more when either of them has the ball in their hands. And if you ask me, outside of Jaylen Brown, on this list, he's the best, defender on this list. It kind of can be a toss-up between Jaylen Brown and DeJounte Murray. I think most people give the edge to Jaylen Brown just because of the size difference and the versatility of being able to guard bigger people, bigger bodies in different positions. But DeJounte Murray, phenomenal defender as well. So he's number 8 for me. At number 7, this one felt weird to put this guy this low, considering historically when people make top 10 shooting guard lists, he's like usually top 4 over the last from 5-6 years, the prime of his career, if you will. But he's getting a little bit older, getting a little bit slower, coming off of a couple of injuries, but he's still phenomenal, and that's Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is the number 7 for me. I talked about Klay a lot this year. I talked about some of his shot selection at some points. I talked about his mid-range shot selection at some points, that I wasn't in love with his shot selection. I think a lot of people weren't in love with Klay shot selection. That's no surprise there. But Klay Thompson's still one of the best shooters in the league. He led the league in 3-pointers made this season. He shot 41% on 10 attempts a game this season. And while he's not as good defensively as he has been in the past, he's coming off of that ACL injury. He's coming off of being just 33 years old. He's going to move a little bit slower. I still wouldn't consider him a bad defender. He's just not the ball stopper that he once was. His instincts are still there. I'm very excited. I'm curious to see what next year looks like for him in terms of the defensive side of the ball. I know technically he'll be a year older, but another year removed from that injury, the confidence might just be back a little bit, and he might be willing to. I'm going to say he might be willing to put in a little more effort defensively, but I don't mean that in the sense that he wasn't putting there. He just wasn't what we have known him to be. Because what we've known Klay to be is all defensive caliber defender. He wasn't that this season, but he was still an amazing shooter for them this season. Sleazy, I'm not mad at you counting SGA as a point guard. I know a lot of people do. I think some of the positions, and it's going to get real muddy when we get through the small forward and power forward rankings over the next 2 weeks. It's going to get real muddy there because some of these guys, as we move closer and closer to what we've been calling over the last couple of seasons, a positionless basketball, positionless NBA. Some people call SGA a point. Some people call SGA a shooting guard. Some people, like guys like DeMar DeRozan last year on my list, was real controversial. Some people had him on a small forward list. Some people had him on a power forward list. I like to go by just looking at lineups and seeing who guys played with, like, the most minutes that the lineups those teams run, and just kind of base it off of that. And watching this team play and seeing how they operate, personally, I just got him at the 2. But if you got him at the 1, I'm not mad at that. I've seen people's lists with him at the 1. I've seen people's lists with him at the 2. It just kind of depends on what you're looking at when you classify it. You know what I mean? We just did Klay at 7. So that brings me up to 6. And interestingly enough, what I was talking about earlier, well, I'll save that for a second. That brings me to 6. And at 6 is where I have Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine, to me, he's one of my favorite guys on this list, but he's one of the guys I'm most frustrated with on this list. And I've been frustrated with him most of his career. Zach LaVine is a bucket getter. Zach LaVine is low-key a really solid shooter. I think his shooting ability goes, Zach's shooting ability goes a little, I don't want to use the word underrated, but it's overlooked because we talk about his ability to dunk and stuff like that, and his ability to just be a high flyer, get to the rim. Like, that's what we know Zach for. He's really polished his game out a lot. Zach's a really good shot creator in the mid-range game. 3-point shot is really good. His ability to create for himself is why Black Majestic, to your point, his ability to create for himself is why I have him over Klay Thompson. I think Zach had a really, really good season this year. I just wish he was better defensively. The only knock I have on Zach LaVine, other than potentially scoring more and be doing that at a more efficient level to get him higher on his list or whatever, or dabbling more into playmaking, but because he has the strength, the athleticism, the speed, I personally wish he was a better defender. But I'm a guy who likes defense, so Zach LaVine at 6 for me. Yeah, Sleazy. Yeah, personally, I have him over Klay. Same. His Zach LaVine's shot creation, I think, is, I don't want to use the word underrated. I just don't think it's talked about that much. Like, I think people know he can do it when you watch a Bulls game. The problem is who's watching a Bulls game. So, you know, when you tune into the Bulls game, you're going to see some really, really good shot making from Zach LaVine. DeMar DeRozan too, obviously, but Zach LaVine's a really good shot creator. Moving on to number 5. And this is where it gets a little muddy and interesting getting into this top 5 here. This is where I actually have Anthony. Oh, excuse me. At number 5 is actually where I have Anthony Edwards. Now, Anthony Edwards, he's like, I struggle with ranking young players. I'm gonna keep it a bean. I do. I'm one of those guys who I really like to see how a player does for a couple of years. Sleazy, I agree. Honestly, Zach LaVine had one of the most underrated seasons from the guards last year. I'm not mad. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But in Anthony Edwards' case, I struggle with ranking young players. Anthony Edwards is in his 3rd year, I believe. He's his 1st year being an all-star. 3rd year, 1st year being an all-star, 24 points a game this season. And part of the reason I think I struggle with ranking young players is because young players get a lot of hype. And sometimes I feel like I let the public's hype cloud my judgment of these young players. So I'm really looking forward to watching the Timberwolves this year. And I think we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. There are some teams that I realize I have, like teams and players that I realize I have an inherent bias, either for or against. And this season, I'm going to do a real concerted effort to try to watch them a lot to see if, even if it's a positive bias or negative bias, to see if it's valid. Like, I'm just curious if it's valid. And Anthony Edwards is one of the players who I'll admit, going into this season, I had a negative bias against. A lot of people at the end of last season was like, yo, Anthony Edwards is going to be a superstar this year. He's going to be best shooting guard in the league next year. Like, it was a lot of hype surrounding Anthony Edwards coming into this season. I'm talking last summer. Into this season, there was a lot of hype. He proved the hype was valid. He proved the hype was valid. Anthony Edwards had a really, really good season. Carried that Timberwolves team through a lot. Mind you, they did end up making the playoffs, but Karl-Anthony Towns only plays 29 games. They ended up trading away. He has to get used to playing with Rudy Gobert, a whole different 2 big man system, only for those 29 games, then for Cat to be injured. They trade D'Lo midway through the season. Now he's got to get used to playing with a new point guard, Mike Conley. And through all of these turmoil, not turmoil, but just change in the roster, change in play style, change in just what he had to go through in terms of just a basketball player on the court, he stayed consistent. The shooting was good. Attacking the basket was good. Shot creation was good. He's going to be a really, really good player. And this season made me an Ant-Man believer. I ain't going to hold you. This season made me an Ant-Man believer. And Sleazy, I agree. It's hard ranking the guy you know has a super high ceiling. Part of my inherent bias against him was I wasn't sure how high his ceiling was going into this season. And people were telling me his ceiling was high. But now I see it. I can admit I see it, and I'm happy with his game. I'm happy with his game. At number 4, pull up my list. Let me pull up my list. At number 4 is where I have Jaylen Brown. I think Jaylen Brown had a really, really good season. Honestly, I think Jaylen Brown had the best season of his career. Offense, he was a second time in his career he made an all-star team. No, I'm sorry. Am I right there? Am I wrong there? Where did I write that down at? Jaylen Brown. There we go. Yeah. Second time in his career, he made an all-star team. Career high in points this season. He just did a lot. I ain't gonna lie, he lost me. I think he had a really, really good year. I really do. The two-way play was phenomenal. I think offensively, he was really, really good. I think a lot of people are going to... Now, how can I put this? I think a lot of people are going to harp on and knock Jaylen Brown for his playoff performances, for his playoff performance. I think Jaylen Brown took a lot of slander from that this summer. His playoff performance isn't why I have him at 4, though. I think he was really good offensively. I think he was really good defensively. I think Jaylen Brown also benefits from being a part of a really, really well-orchestrated team. Personally, I'm not holding this against him, but I think Jaylen Brown benefits from playing alongside Jason Tatum. The rest of these guys on this list, in my opinion, they are the number one. They are the defense's number one focal point. I think Jaylen Brown benefits from being the defensive second focal point. And personally, I think he's at 4. I would love to see, I'm not saying I want to see them works well together, really plays well together. I think their strengths kind of balance each other out. They're both good defensively, good two-way wings that just make the Celtics a really, really good team. And I don't think him being at 4 is disrespect. I don't. Yeah, and we do know that JT has those nasty shooting numbers, Sleazy, to your point. And JB got to be number 1. But I think to play devil's advocate here with you, some of those nights where Jason Tatum is having a horrible shooting night is because he's getting the number 1 defensive attention. And so the defensive scheme might be working that night on Jason Tatum, and that might be why you know what I'm saying? So it really ain't no knock to JB in my mind. Like, I love his game. And I know plenty of people who have the conversation on any given night, Jaylen Brown is better than Jason Tatum. I'm always here for that conversation. Like, people have that conversation all the time, whatever. But for me and how I view it, he's number 4. And you know what I mean? It's close, but he's just number 4. At number 3, though, is where I have Donovan Mitchell. And this is where I struggled with this top 3. I'm not going to hold you. I ain't struggling much with Jaylen Brown. I knew he was going to be 4. I don't mean in a disrespectful way. How I look at it, I knew he was going to be my 4th. These top 3 of Devin Booker, SGA, and Donovan Mitchell was a struggle for me for a couple of reasons. Donovan Mitchell, I have at 3. And when it comes to the shooting guard position for most of the season, for me, they were 1 and 2. Like, almost all season long, they were like a 1A, 1B situation, 1A, 1B situation. I think they can do a lot of very similar things. All 3 of those guys to an extent. But SGA is a little different, and I'll explain why in a second. Just comparing Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker here. When it comes to Booker and Mitchell, I think they're very similar. They both can shoot the ball well. They both can operate in the mid-range. They both can get to the basket. They both have experience being number 1 options on their teams. Big moments in the playoffs. Not the only, but the main edge I think that I would give over Devin Booker over Donovan Mitchell is the ability to make tougher shots. And it's not necessarily, for me at least, it's not necessarily a skill difference or a skill gap, things like that. Don't get me wrong, because I've seen Donovan Mitchell take some really tough shots. Like, we saw him drop 71 this year, let's be real. Devin Booker's just a little taller. And I think some of that height difference allows him to shoot over either similar size defenders or smaller defenders. Donovan Mitchell's size difference, I think, holds him back slightly, and that's why I have him at the 3. But in that same breath, that size difference is what made me want to rank him a little higher. Because in my mind, he does... Oh, lag was really bad? My fault. In my mind, I think Donovan Mitchell can do anything Devin Booker can do. He's just a little smaller than him. So that's why I got him at 3. I'm not mad at you saying Jaylen Brown's better than him. D Book is so far ahead of D Mitch in my eyes. See, I don't see that. I know a lot of people will say that, but the reason I don't see it is because they all, to me at least, they all can score at the same level. They all get the same amount of defensive pressure. I think if anything, defensively, neither of them is doing anything. Like if we keep it a bean, for me at least, neither of them is doing nothing crazy defensively. Honestly, I might say Donovan Mitchell is a slightly better defender than Devin Booker. That's just off of energy and effort. Not saying Booker doesn't give energy and effort on the defensive side of the ball. I just think I've seen Donovan Mitchell give more and be a better defender. He's just smaller. I think and it's not a hold back thing. I don't think there's that big of a gap between Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker. And I realize I'm in a big minority here. Like most people won't agree with me there. And I'll explain when we get to where Devin Booker is, I'll explain what gave me the nod, what did give him the nod over Donovan Mitchell. But I just really wanted to show Donovan Mitchell some love because I think the discourse that I see on the internet is a lot of people don't think Donovan Mitchell is as good as I think he is, which is cool. Like, it's cool with me. I think he's a really, really good shooting guard. And I'm going to keep it a bean. If SGA wasn't on my list as a shooting guard, because I realized I already put him as a shooting guard when I was going through ranking, like not going through ranking, but kind of putting players in pools, Donovan Mitchell would be number 2 on my list. So I'm not mad at that. At number 2, though, is where I have SGA. I think SGA had a phenomenal season. He was top 10 in clutch scoring, all NBA first team. What he did for that Thunder team, I'm not saying this Thunder team don't got talent. Like, I like a lot of the guys from this Thunder team. But that Thunder team ain't doing what it did this season without SGA. It's just simply not. And that alone is kind of what makes me put him here. I went back and forth between 2 and the 3 spot for Donovan Mitchell and SGA. Ultimately ended up putting SGA at the 2. A couple of things I would like to see more from SGA. If he could become a better shooter, bro, the sky's the limit for his game. The sky's already the limit for his game, but if he could become a better shooter, averaging 30 on only taking 2 threes a game on some not good shooting percentages is crazy. Averaging 30 on almost all 2s is crazy. So shout out to SGA. I think he had a really, really good season. I think and that's the part of Sleazy. This is why I like doing rankings, because I think a lot of us have we just all have different things we prioritize. And I'm not mad at that. And at number 1 is where I have Devin Booker. And I'm going to tell you the difference between Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell. Once again, skipping over the SGA part. But the difference I have between Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell and why Devin Booker is 1 is very similar to, that's why I brought it up in the beginning, to the, why is his name slipping my mind? Nuggets point guard. My brain wants to say Jalen Brunson. I know it ain't Jalen Brunson. Why am I just drawing a blank? Basically, Devin Booker's playoff play was so good and so phenomenal that his ability to still look like the number 1 option. Yeah, Jamal Murray. Thank you. I knew you was going to tell me eventually. Somebody was going to tell me. Sometimes my brain just turned off and I can't remember guys' names. You casual. One of the main reason, obviously, yes, Devin Booker had a phenomenal season. Scores at all levels of the court, clutch shot after clutch shot. Like, his mid-range game is absolutely phenomenal. But the reason I have him number 1 is for his playoff play. Very similar to why I ranked Jamal Murray where I ranked him. He would already have been in the mix of the top 3. Like, I ain't gonna front. He was already in top 3 mix off by default. But what he did in the playoffs, the way he elevated his game in the playoffs, still playing alongside Kevin Durant, but still looking like the number 1 guy. And going into this season, I think it's clear that he's going to be the number 1 guy for the Suns. I think he had a phenomenal year. I really, really do. So before we move on to the rest of this stuff that we got on the docket for today, my top 10 shooting guard list is Devin Booker, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, Anthony Edwards, Zach LaVine, Klay Thompson, DeJounte Murray, Bradley Beal, and Tyrese Maxey. I'm not mad at the list, clearly. Sleazy, I get it, though. You ain't mad at the list, but you don't love it, and I get that. you ain't going to love every list. I know some people ain't going to hate the Jaylen Brown picking that being that high. Jaylen Brown pick might be the only pick that I think people are going to have some controversy with. And I'm not tripping over that. Like I said, if you wanted Desmond Bane or Tyler Hero in there over either Beal or Maxey, I'm not tripping over that either. I think Anthony Edwards and Zach LaVine, right, at least right now, in my opinion, are like solidly 5'6". Some people might want Clay a little bit higher because of his legacy and his reputation. He ain't have a bad year. He had a good season. He just, to me, Klay Thompson fell into and this is going to sound, some people might take this as disrespectful. I don't mean it this way, but what Klay Thompson did this year reminded me a lot of like a prime Kyle Korver. He was out there to let it fly. The defense wasn't there like it used to be. The shot creation wasn't there like it used to be. But you know what was there? His ability to run around screens and let it fly. So shout out to these guys. Like, I think he had a good year, though. I do. All right. Moving on to a couple of things. So let's talk about Team USA real quick. I'll be honest. More so from not so much as a breaking down the game part, just I have some thoughts, so I'm going to share them. I don't know how to explain it, but I have some thoughts I'm going to share. So Team USA loses in I don't know what the game is technically called. They lose in the runner-up game. They lose in the game fighting for third place. I'm going to keep it being. I only watched a little bit of highlights. I didn't even watch that many highlights. To my understanding, everybody didn't even play in that game because it was like, yo, if we ain't going for gold, what we going for? Throughout the FIBA tournament, they started out good. Like, they was beating up on some really, really bad teams. They was beating up on bad teams. But when it came down to playing, even I'm talking about like group play or even like that round that was after the group play, the games that we lost were the games that were against teams that ended up actually going deep into the tournament. Like, once we started playing against the equivalent of an over 500 team, we struggled. And one of the things that we said going into this tournament that a lot of people said was, this team is mid. This team ain't good. Who are we sending? I want to say only 2 or 3 of the guys on the team had made an all-star team going into this. There were some concerns in with what this team was going to look like. We had a stream at the beginning of FIBA, and I was like, at the very least, I'm excited for these guys to get this level of experience, because we talked about how the 2014 FIBA team was a bunch of young guys. It was Steph, it was Clay, it was James, it was Kyrie, all of these guys before they went on to win MVPs, championships, all the stuff and the like. And then I'm looking into it further. USA really don't be caring about FIBA. I was listening to Old Man in the Three. It was either Old Man in the Three or The Mismatch. Y'all know those are my favorite podcasts. And they're basically talking about, when it comes to the Olympics, we've won, I think it was 27 out of 30 or 26 out of 30. Maybe not 30. 30 sound like a lot. Maybe it was 18 out of 20 or 17 out of 20. We've won most of the Olympics, or at least medaled at most of the Olympics. We've only won 3 out of the last like 10 FIBA Johns. They just don't take FIBA as serious. And I don't, for good or bad, like good or bad, I don't, you could, if you want them to take it serious, if you don't want to take it serious, good or bad, I don't think Team USA takes FIBA as serious as they take the Olympics. It is what it is. They don't look at FIBA the way the world looks at FIFA, because I would say FIFA is more highly touted than soccer is at the Olympics. It's flip-flopped. Basketball is more highly touted at the Olympics than it is at the FIBA. So, and yes, Sleazy, the crazy part is this team on paper was really good. We went on, like I said, I was like, maybe June, we had a stream. I'm like, yo, this team is good. Everybody's talking bad about it. Like, the team was solid. I'm looking forward to the rest of these guys' careers. But one of the things that I think was interesting to look at or interesting to talk about was, one, the fact that none of these guys have international play experience, so international rule experience. So the rules are slightly different. Like, there's no defensive 3-second in the key. You can still swat a ball off of the rim. Like, there's just a couple of slightly different rules that make the game, the way you think about the game, at least on the defensive and offensively, it just makes you think about specifically the paint differently. And the reason I bring up the paint is because one of the things that one of the things that Team USA struggled with was their presence to the paint. And a lot of that, Sleazy, you already brought it up and alluded to, a lot of that came up with talking about Jaren Jackson Jr. A lot of people were complaining about him fouling out in some of these games. And after thinking about it, they did Jaren Jackson Jr. a disservice by expecting him to be the center for most of these games. I'm not trying to make an excuse for him, but when you look at what Jaren Jackson Jr. does in a regular season for the team he plays for in the NBA, he be running a lot of power forward. He be running a lot of power forward. He don't be rebounding for them. I think he averaged a career high in rebounds this season, and it was 6.8. And that's a career high. Last season, 5.8, 5.6, 4.6, 4.7. He's not a rebounder. He never has been. He's just not. You know who does rebound on the Memphis Grizzlies? And that's why they picked him up, because Jaren Jackson's not a rebounder. Steven Adams. Steven Adams had, he only played, I think, 50 games this season because he went down to injury. But before, when he was healthy, it was 11 rebounds a game, and it was 12 rebounds a game last season. Jaren Jackson Jr. is not a rebounder. You know what Jaren Jackson Jr. also struggles with? Staying on the floor and staying out of foul trouble. He struggled with that now. So I get people's frustrations with him and wanting him to do this, but I also think on the orchestrators of the Team USA team, like on their side, part of the responsibility would have been putting an actual rebounder on his team, putting a big man on his team that can body some people up. Because Sleazy, yes, they could have put him next to Walker Kessler and they'd have been straight, but they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to do that. So I think part of it is on, I want to say Grant Hill's the guy who's in charge of orchestrating the team from a administrative standpoint isn't necessarily a word I'm looking for, but from a organizational standpoint, I think Grant Hill, I want to say, is the guy who's in charge of running the roster. And I think Steve Kerr could have done some different things. Like you're saying, Sleazy, he could have ran some more schemes and Walker Kessler and Jaren Jackson Jr. on the floor together and had JJJ on the perimeter. Because as his skill set and some of the things that makes him so impactful is his ability to cut, put the ball on the floor a little bit, shoot a little bit. I don't want him shooting that much. Granted, he was a better shooter this year than he has been in his career. His best shooting year of his career. But I just think he was used poorly and put in a bad light, and they ate him up for it. Now we get into this point where, let me pull this up here from The Athletic. Now Team USA wants to bring out the big guns. Let me log into my Athletic account. What is my Athletic account? That's the real question. Did I use my Google for Athletic? Let's find out. So now we get into this point where FIBA doesn't do well, which it is what it is, you know. And we're looking at LeBron James ready to commit to the 2024 Olympic team, recruiting fellow stars. Shams tweeted this out this morning. There we go. James has spoken to Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Jason Tatum, and Draymond Green. They are all prepared to commit as well. Separately, Phoenix's Devin Booker, Portland's Damian Lillard, Sacramento's De'Aaron Fox, and Dallas's Kyrie Irving also have serious interest in committing, league sources said. I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer or someone who don't believe these guys who are, you know, committing to Team USA, you know, a year early to saying they want to play in the Olympics or putting their hat in to commit to playing in the Olympics. You seen what Kuz and D-Book said on Twitter about the stars playing together? I did, yeah. Kuzma, let me see if I can find that real quick. I think I sent it to myself. Kyle Kuzma put out a very interesting tweet, which I think there's a lot of truth in that. Essentially, he was saying, we got to put USA basketball better get some NBA stars. Here we go. Because it was swirling of LeBron James is coming back, and, you know, everybody's coming back and want to play. Kuzma says USA basketball better get some NBA stars to know how to play a role. Anybody could be nice with the ball in their hands, but can you be cool with defending and going to a corner for a few possessions? And Devin Booker quote tweeted it and saying, I will, you know, it's hilarious. Twitter, Elon, you gotta fix Twitter. Like you can't even pull up quote tweets and desktop version no more. Yes, Twitter getting cooked. I ain't gonna hold you, but that's besides the point. Twitter getting cooked since Elon bought it. Which I agree. Like, yes, whatever superstars that come to this, and that's part of what I was about to talk about for the FIBA, because one of the FIBA teams, these Team USA teams, we all want the best stars to be there. We all want the superstars to be there to basically have this turn into a glorified all-star game. But you got to put some respect on some of these other world teams. We've had this conversation a couple weeks ago. Top 3 guys, top 4, top 5 guys in the league aren't even American. Like, depending on whose list it is or who you're talking to, some combination of Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Joel, and I mean, that's 4 right there. 4 of the top 5 and most people's lists ain't even American. So my point is, we really got to put some respect on some of these other teams. There has to be some continuity. You have to put all-stars out there, superstars out there that are willing to sacrifice and willing to conform to a role that they might not be used to. And the connection here I'm trying to make with FIBA is another one of the guys that caught a lot of slack in the FIBA tournament was Brandon Ingram, because he also didn't have a really, really good FIBA. He didn't. And I think part of the reason he didn't have a good FIBA showing is he's not used to what Kyle Kuzma's talking about right here. He's not used to this. His whole career, he's been the guy. He's been the guy. You get the ball in his hands. Oh, my light died. You get the ball in his hands and he goes to work. So I think that was a big adjustment for him, getting used to play with other guys who can go for real and not being used the way he's being used to being used. I can't remember off the top of my head if a guy like Devin Booker has played for Team USA. I want to say no, but I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure. Now, the rest of the guys on this list are familiar with, we've seen in Team USA play. We haven't seen Steph Curry in the Olympics, but we've seen him in Team USA play. We just talked about that 2014 FIBA run he did. But my other point I was thinking about when I saw these tweets going viral and everybody's like, yo, let's get the Avengers going. Let's, we about to run the world. We about to show, I can't remember his name right now. We about to show that track star that, the NBA are really world champs, this, that, and the third, which I thought was a stupid, dumb conversation that took over NBA Twitter for a week. I wanted to talk about it, and every time I went to talk about it, I was like, this is dumb. Like, I don't really care this much. But anyway, the thing, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, and I'm going to knock on wood as I say it. One of these dudes ain't going to play. A couple of these dudes ain't going to play. It's couple of things that are going to hold back these superstars from building the Avengers in my mind. A lot of them is old. Steph, KD, Draymond, Dame, even LeBron, obviously. They old. They 33 plus. They old. Old people be injured. So if any of these guys get injured on the regular season, guarantee you they're not playing through Team USA. So once again, knock on wood. I don't want nobody to be injured. I'm not wishing no injury on these guys. I'm just saying what be happening in the league. And the third thing I think that's going to stop one of these guys from showing up, if not a couple of these guys, if any of these guys have a deep playoff run, like if one of these guys win the finals, I don't know if they're going to play on Team USA because they're going to be gassed. Like if you play to June, you win the finals, or if you're in the finals and you play to June, the turnaround for the Olympics is going to be like early July, probably. They're going to start playing games. And then that Olympics is going to cut into your off season, and you ain't going to have no rest going into the regular season. And now you're really going to be susceptible to injury. Once again, knocking on wood, I'm not wishing this on nobody, but this is how I see it. So yeah, the idea of all these guys playing together is great. I don't think we're going to get this full list that we're looking at here. I'm looking at you, Anthony Davis, LeBron even. Like, I don't know if y'all going to play the whole time. And the reason specifically, because we talked about this last week with Anthony Davis and LeBron, is why not sure if they're going to play. It's because we saw what they looked like when they don't have an offseason after the bubble. Anthony Davis, they play till August, and they turn around and flip it and come back in December, and Anthony Davis got injured right away and been dealing with injuries ever since. So I think there's just a little concern for me about some of these big names playing in this. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm not saying we shouldn't take it seriously and put out the best product we can. I think we should. I'd love to watch it as a fan of basketball. I just have some concerns. And then my other big concern when it comes to Team USA, we mentioned Walker Kessler. We talked about Jaren Jackson Jr. Some of the best centers aren't American. Jokic is out. Giannis, Joel. There's even just a lot of big bodies just around that can play for their teams. Vucevic is probably gonna play for his own team. Like there's a lot of the Sabonis is gonna play for his home country. Like some of the best centers ain't American in the league right now. Like now we said we do have Walker Kessler. That's a name I would like to see play. We do have Bam. That's a name I would like to see play. And not the saying that Bam would have the same struggles that the Triple J did. Let me look it up before I disrespect Bam and make sure I put some respect on his name. Because while Bam does actually play center most of the time for the Miami Heat, I know plenty of Heat fans. My boys is Heat fans. They tell me almost every offseason, man, I wish we would get a big so Bam can not have to play 5 all the time. Very similar to the situation that Anthony Davis be finding himself in, where he has to play 5 all the time, where it's really effective having y'all at the 5, but there's sometimes you just want that luxury of another big. So I'm very curious to see what that other big would be for them. Yeah, we can play great between Bam, Anthony Davis, Draymond, Triple J, Walker Kessler. They're all really, really good defensively. Maybe I'm just a little too worried about the size. Maybe I'm a little too worried because we saw Bam go crazy against Giannis in the playoffs. We saw Bam go crazy defensively against Giannis in the playoffs. So if Bam shows up, I think we'll be straight. I know I've listened to so many podcasts saying they want to see Joel Embiid play. I don't think he's going to play for Team USA. Technically, he can play for Team USA. He has a dual citizenship, so he is a U.S. citizen, and he's a citizen of France. So he'll play for either one of those countries. Personally, I want to see him play for France. Like Rudy Gobert, Joel, even Fournier. Who else is French in the league right now? Like, it's not that many big bodies. It's just the bodies that are big can be some of the best in the league. Like we team up against Greece or Jokic, France. Like there's some big bodies and these international teams that are good, like that are legit good. And also the other thing that I think continuing into the conversation feed, but not so much as the players and personnel. Whatever team we put together, they just got to be in lockstep. Like, I think we're just realizing, and I think the world is realizing, I think a lot of NBA fans are realizing that world basketball is really good. And I'm not mad at that. On TikTok, they saying throw in, and that's not bad. Throwing DPOY candidate Claxton. I don't think he'd get the nod, to be honest with you. But that's not a bad pickup. I could have seen Claxton making the FIBA team, the FIBA roster, probably coming from this FIBA team to actually making the Olympics team. I could see Anthony Edwards making it. He's like, I think, a legit lock. Like, I think he'll make the team. I want to say I could see BI making it, but after that showing, they might not pick him up. I think he's talented enough for it, but after that showing, they might not pick him up. But I'd be curious to see how Anthony Edwards performs in this version of Team USA, like the Olympic version of Team USA, because he's going to be like a bench role. He's going to be that role that they were talking about at the beginning, where they was like, when Steve Kerr's like, well, D-Wade came off the bench, and Anthony Edwards like, well, you tell me who Kobe on this team. Well, Anthony Edwards in this lineup is coming off the bench most likely. So I'm curious to see how he would react to that or how he would flow in that. But I would love to see Anthony Edwards come back. Low key, it depends. The guard position is really stacked. It really just depends on what guards do and do not decide to show up. I think Tyrese Halliburton would be really good at Team USA. A guy who can just really put the ball on the string, get everybody involved. I don't think he'll make it because between Steph, Devin Booker, Kyrie, De'Aaron Fox is interested. Anthony Edwards is a guard. Like, I just think there's not as many available guard positions. But if one of those guys or a couple of those guys opted out and for some reason decided not to go, I would love to see Tyrese Halliburton play. I would love it. I think he'd be really, really good. All right. Next up on the docket, we have. Let's talk about this new rule. Now, I ain't going to hold you. I got to look it up a little bit because I didn't have that much time to check it out myself. But I want to get a better understanding of it. We're going to get a better understanding of it together on stream. I think I sent myself a tweet. Oh, I did want to talk about the Giannis comments too. So we'll look into that in a second. Where is... You love the new rule, Sleazy? All right, let me... I mean, let's just go to NBA.com and hit news. I'm gonna hope they got an article about it already now because NBA ends new policy for resting star players. Okay, so this is kind of new for me. So we gonna. I was seeing some tweets throughout the day, but I didn't get a chance to really read about it before stream. I apologize. I try to be prepared, more prepared than this. But NBA Board of Governors approves new player participation policy. The new policy will take effect the start of the 2023-2024 regular season. I'm gonna read a lot of this because, like I said, I don't know it. The NBA Board of Governors today approved the new player participation policy, which is intended to promote player participation in the NBA's regular season. The new policy will take effect with the start of the 2023-24 regular season and enhance and replace the player resting policy, which was implemented prior to the 17-18 season. The player participation policy, that's funny that they're even changing the name. Enhance and replace. This was the player resting policy, which made it seem like it was about allowing people to rest. The participation policy makes it seem like it's like, nah, y'all did enough resting and we're going to get you back. Even just the names of the policies already sending a type of message here. The participation policy primarily will focus on star players. A star player for purposes of the policy is any player who, in any of the prior 3 seasons, was selected to an All-NBA team or an All-Star team. I guess I wonder if All-NBA, does all defensive fall underneath the All-NBA standing? Like, is it just all league teams? I'm curious. This definition also applies following a given season's All-Star game to any player who's named an All-Star during that season. So if you're named an All-Star during that season, it'll apply for you for your next year. Okay. Under the policy, unless a team demonstrates an approved reason for a star player not to participate in a game, then amongst other things, the team must manage its roster to ensure that no more than one star player is unavailable for the same game, ensure that star players are available for all national television and NBA season and tournament games. NBA in-season tournament games. Maintain a balance between the number of one-game absences for a star player in home and road games. So you can't just be like, I'm not playing on the road and only play home games. Refrain from any long-term shutdowns in which a star player stops playing games. If resting a healthy player, ensure that player is present at the games and visible to fans. The policy includes exceptions for injuries, personal reasons, pre-approved back-to-back restrictions based on a player's age, career workload, or serious injury history. I ain't gonna lie, because I feel like if you should not physically injured and can't play, then you should play. He said, you ain't read all this, I'm dead. I'm not mad at this. This is a good rule. So essentially it sounds like I can see some loopholes in it. I ain't gonna hold you just based on some of these exceptions. Exceptions for injuries, personal reasons. Personal reasons are usually like a pregnant wife, baby being born, death in the family, parents sick. Like those are usually some of the personal reasons we hear about when players miss games for personal reasons, whatever it is. Pre-approved back-to-back restrictions. I'm cool with that because the NBA keep claiming they're having they claim they have less or almost no back-to-backs that are also, or a lot less. I can't say they have none. I'm sure they have some, but a lot less back-to-backs that are national televised games. So I'm not mad at that. But age, career workload, and serious injury history, it makes me wonder what that's going to look like because it's funny when Bleacher Report, when Sports Center, when ESPN, when The Athletic, the Dunk NBA Central, when somebody on social media was posting about this rule, the main picture that they used was obviously Kawhi and Paul George. Kawhi and Paul George have age, career workload, and serious injury history to consider, and some of those things might make them so they can sit out more games than we want them to, but hopefully they play. Because Ty Lue said in a recent interview a couple of weeks ago, I think he was on All the Smoke, maybe this might have been like June, July, that he told Kawhi, PG, that we got to take the regular season more serious, that we need to, buckle down and hoop. I feel like it's a little crazy that your head coach has to come out and say that he told you to take the regular season more serious, but it is what it is. Not my monkey, not my circus. I like this rule for the most part. Do I think it'll have a huge impact? At the very least, I think it'll have an impact on national televised games. And if that's the case, I'm happy with that. Personally, I watch a lot of League Pass games, so I might still be watching some games where stars aren't playing. But at the very least, for them Tuesday, Thursday TNT games, them Saturday matinees and stuff like that, it'll be good for those. It'll be good for those. This list is from who made this list? Shout out to NBA Central. They're now the Dunk Central. They put together the 49 star players who are subject to the new player participation policy. There's a lot of names here because you got to think either all-stars, all-NBA guys. I'm just going to scroll through and see some names. Like Ben is on here. That's a good one to be here. He need to be hooping. A lot of these guys, the way I'm looking at them, they don't really be sitting out. At least in my opinion, they don't be sitting out for sitting out's sake. This doesn't apply to a ton of guys. We know who the big, the guys who this really be applying to on a regular basis. We know who the guys this be applying to on a regular basis. But I'm not mad at this. I like the rule. Hey, shout out to Mike Conley. I forgot he made a team a couple years ago. That's crazy. Mike Conley's on here. Shout out to him. Let's hope we see a lot of him this season. We shall see. Devin Booker's another guy I'm like slightly concerned about. Still, he bounced back really, really good from his injury, but injuries be injury. I like the rule. I'm not mad at it. I don't know if it'll have a huge impact on actually seeing guys play more games. Like I said, it'll affect those nationally televised games. And the reason that's good that it'll affect those nationally televised games is because the NBA is about to go in a bidding war to see who's going to get league rights again. Like I want to say either this summer or next summer, they're going to be bidding for rights to stream the games. Like rumors are out that Apple's going to be interested, that Amazon's going to be interested. Remember a couple of years ago when I want to say all Thursday night games were on Amazon Prime, like you had to have a Prime account to watch Thursday night football games, Thursday night football. I can see the NBA trying to get into something like that. There's money to be made here, but these companies, these streaming companies, these TV companies, they ain't going to want the product if the players who make the product what it is ain't playing. So I'm not mad at this rule, at the very least, for nationally televised games in the end-season tournament. I feel like there was something else I wanted to talk about. Last thing before we get out of here, and it's not really a major thing. I'm going to talk about it. I don't think it's that big of a deal personally. Giannis was on... Dang, ESPN, NBA and ESPN ain't right, bro. 48 minutes on Believe. I don't like ESPN's Twitter account for doing this because I like shouting out the publication that be getting these interviews. Giannis has had an interview recently, sometime this week. He had this to say about... Oh, no, I think I saw a longer clip. It was like a minute and some change. No, did I not say the longer clip? Hold on. Giannis had some words basically about his future with the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't think they were that crazy. It was a topic of discussion. I think he said the right stuff. Personally, let me pull this up. I think the NBA Central tweeted it out. Because ESPN only put out the 30-second clip, but there's like a minute and 30 clip that I wanted to see. No. All right, no. I don't have the minute 30 clip. My fault. So we got the 30-second clip.
And we approach.
This is what Giannis had to say earlier today, or earlier this week. Serge, what's good with you, my guy? How you doing? I'm doing good. Yes. Serbia won silver. Congratulations to y'all for sure. Y'all won silver and Jokic ain't even play, man. I'm excited to see what Serbia and Jokic do in the Olympics next year. Like I really, really am. Good to see you, my guy. Thanks for pulling up to the stream. So this is what Giannis had to say. I think this was like 2 days ago, or if not yesterday. Talking about his future with the Bucks, I guess you'll say.
As long as we play and we approach the game every single day the right way, and we all sacrifice for a common goal, I can see myself being in Milwaukee Bucks for the rest of my career. But the moment I feel like people are not committed as I am to get that golden thing in the back, I am not. You know, I'm a Milwaukee Buck, but most importantly, I'm a winner. I want to win, and I have to do whatever it takes for me to win. And if there's a better situation for me to win the Larry O'Brien, I have to take that better situation. As long as we play.
So a lot of people, I think Giannis, he's had some other words. It might have been a quote from this same interview, to be honest with you. I'm not 100%. It might have been a quote from this same interview. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm not 100% certain. But he had another quote last week that was very similar words of, I want to be in Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee, but I want to win. If it looks like we're not all on the same page, it was talking about his extension. He was like, I'm not signing an extension until I'm sure we're all on the same page and want to win moving forward. I don't think anything wrong with that. I think a lot of people, I get Milwaukee fans being nervous and being like, oh snap, are we going to lose Giannis? Because it's a superstars league, and when a superstar is unhappy, they move. We see it happen. And Giannis is top 3. If top 3 in the league is unhappy, he gonna go where he wanted. Like, people gonna move mountains to try to get Giannis if he unhappy. But what he also said in that interview was, I'm a Buck. Like, he wants to be there as long as they put together a team that he feels like can win, that he feels like is making strides to win. And I'm gonna keep it a bean, as even going into this season that's currently constructed, I think they have a roster that wants to win and that can still win basketball games. So I don't necessarily think he's talking about this year. He's talking about what's the year after that gonna look like. What's the year after that gonna look like? Drew's 31, 32. Like, they're not young guys. They're all still greatly talented, don't get me wrong. And if you ask me, Brook Lopez he might have had his best season as a Buck last year. Like, he was great last season. But the elephant in the room is they ain't getting no younger. So I think it's not something to really be concerned about unless the ownership, the leadership isn't willing to pay some bread, isn't willing to maybe dip into some tax, isn't willing to go through that second apron. Like, those are the types of things that they might have to do to satisfy, or at least to prove the Giannis that they want to win a championship. Now, it'll be on him to win it. It'll be on him and the players to win it. But it's on the GM, the owners, the coaching staff to put together a team and put together a system that he believes can. So, which I think they can do. That's my point. Like, they have been doing that. The Bucks, outside of some injuries with Chris Middleton over the last year and a half, the Bucks have been legit contenders at the beginning of every season. The Bucks have been a team who, Vegas odds, analysts, dudes on YouTube, whatever, have said almost every year since they won that they can win the championship. So I think they're in the right spot. They're in the right direction. He just wants to ensure that whatever this next contract is going to be, because he is fully under contract for the 24-25 season. Then he has a player option for the 25-26 season. So it's this year, next year, then he has a player option. So he can decide what he wants to do there, and he'll be 31 years old. In his mind, he's like, I can probably cash in one more big bag, like stupid bag. At that point, we might look up, he making $60 million a year type bag. And he just wants to make sure that's with the right team. He just wants to make sure that's with the right team. Him on OKC would be cool. I don't think that's where he wants to go, Serge, but him on OKC would be cool. But all right, y'all, this was fun. Shooting guard list was fun. Had some, I talked about everything on the docket that I want to talk about. So I appreciate y'all for pulling up. If you're part of Rewatch Gang, watching this later, I appreciate you. If you pull up live, I appreciate you. I will see y'all next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. As always, I'll catch you next one. I'm out. Peace. Alrighty.